You know what's interesting? Most people don't realize what they had until it's no longer there. And the truth is, she gave him love. The kind of love that shows up without being asked, that cares deeply and forgives often. But here's where it breaks. He got used to it. He stopped showing up. He started assuming that no matter how little he gave, she'd still be there. So she walked away. And now he can't stop thinking about her. Not because she changed, but because she finally stopped accepting less than she deserves. Today, I want to talk about what really happens when someone takes you for granted and why your silence, your distance, your growth becomes the one thing they never forget. Let's talk about it. When someone takes you for granted, it's easy to internalize it and believe it's a reflection of your worth, like maybe you weren't enough or didn't do enough. But the truth is, it's rarely about your value. It's about their complacency. People take others for granted not because the person isn't valuable, but because they've grown comfortable with what that person gives. They get used to your kindness, your consistency, your forgiveness, and your emotional labor. Over time, what was once appreciated becomes expected. In relationships, especially when someone is deeply caring and generous, it's common for that effort to slowly become invisible. The little things, checking in, showing support, remembering what matters to them, are no longer seen as special. They're just what you do. And unfortunately, when something becomes routine, people stop appreciating it, even if they couldn't go a day without it. It's not they don't care on some level, it's that they stop showing that they care. That lack of acknowledgement is the birthplace of being taken for granted. But here's what often goes unspoken. When someone gets complacent, it's not because you did too much. It's because they stopped doing their part. When they no longer feel the need to show up, to reciprocate, or to match your energy, it's a sign that their effort has dropped, not that yours is wrong. They assume you'll always be there, and in that assumption, they get careless. It's like putting a beautiful plant in the sun, assuming it will keep blooming without ever watering it. Eventually, it withers. And they act surprised, like they didn't see it coming. This kind of emotional laziness isn't about you not being worthy of more. It's about them not being ready or willing to give it. And that's the key realization. Someone taking you for granted reflects their failure to value you properly, not a flaw in who you are. But the more you stay, the more you forgive without change, the more they believe they don't have to be better. Why would they try harder if you've already accepted the minimum? This is why awareness is power. You have to notice when effort starts to fade, when appreciation is replaced by expectation. Because when that happens, you need to ask yourself, are you loved? Or are you just convenient? Are you being truly seen? Or are you just filling a role in someone's life that they assume you won't ever leave? People wake up the moment their comfort is disrupted. Often, it's not until you stop calling, stop chasing, stop being endlessly available, that they start to realize what they lost. But by then, it's not about punishing them. It's about protecting yourself. Letting them miss you isn't about manipulation. It's about stepping back from a dynamic where you were overextending just to feel noticed. What they forget is that love should never be taken as a guarantee. And when they finally realize they had something rare, it's often too late. You've grown. You've healed. You've remembered who you were before trying to be everything for someone who gave you so little in return. So if you've ever been taken for granted, know this: their failure to recognize your value doesn't lessen it. Your love was real. Your effort was beautiful. And one day, they'll remember it not because you reminded them, but because your absence will be louder than anything you ever said. We often think that if we just keep showing up, keep loving harder, and keep giving more, eventually someone will realize our value. That if we're consistent, patient, and loyal, the other person will wake up and finally start treating us the way we deserve. But what actually happens in many relationships is the opposite. The more we overextend, the more our efforts go unnoticed. The more we give without receiving, the more it becomes expected. What once felt like a gift becomes routine, and routine leads to taking someone for granted. At some point, you have to recognize the imbalance. When you're constantly the one initiating, checking in, making time, and keeping the connection alive, it starts to feel less like love and more like emotional labor. And here's the powerful truth. The moment you stop overgiving is the moment they feel the shift. It's often only when you take a step back, when your texts don't come through first, when your energy is no longer available on demand, when your emotional support is no longer automatic, that they realize what they've been receiving all along. People often don't notice your presence until it's gone. They don't appreciate your energy until it's no longer flowing toward them. And this isn't because they don't care deep down. It's because they've grown accustomed to your care being unconditional. They stopped earning it. They stopped matching it. And so, when you finally stop giving, the silence becomes louder than all the words you've ever said. Suddenly, they start to feel the absence of what they took for granted. That absence is powerful. It's not revenge. It's not a game. It's clarity. You're no longer carrying a connection on your own. You're no longer filling in the gaps someone else left behind. And in that silence, they start to wonder what happened. Where did that version of you go? The one who was always available, always forgiving, always trying. What they fail to realize is that version of you didn't disappear. You just stopped offering her to someone who didn't know how to care for her. You made a decision to protect your peace instead of proving your worth. And in doing so, you gave them the opportunity to either step up or step out. The moment you stop overgiving is not the moment you stop caring. It's the moment you start caring about yourself too. It's when you draw a line between love and self-neglect. Because love doesn't require you to lose yourself. It doesn't ask you to constantly pour from an empty cup. It asks for balance, for mutual effort, for respect. And once you pull back, they begin to notice the void. Not just because they miss you, but because they relied on your presence to feel secure, even while doing the bare minimum to earn it. It's only now, when they're no longer being fed that steady stream of reassurance and attention, that they realize they were being held up by your love alone. In that quiet space where you stop chasing, their memory of you becomes clearer. They begin to realize just how much you brought into their life. Not because you told them, but because your absence speaks for itself. And whether they come back or not, that moment of clarity was never really for them. It was for you to see what happens when you stop over-functioning in a relationship that wasn't meeting you halfway. To reclaim the energy you were so freely giving to someone who had stopped appreciating it. And to finally understand that your value isn't proven through your effort. It's reflected in who's willing to meet you in the middle. When someone says they miss you, it's tempting to believe that it means they finally understand your worth. That they've woken up, realized what they had, and truly regret losing it. But often, that feeling they describe as missing you isn't really about you at all. It's about the way you made them feel. It's about the comfort, the validation, the safety, and the emotional support you gave them. In many cases, people don't miss who you are. They miss how being loved by you made their life easier, softer, more secure. When you love someone deeply, you don't just give them attention. You give them a version of themselves that feels seen and accepted. You become their safe place. You help them feel confident, admired, and emotionally cared for. You show up in the ways no one else has. And while that kind of love is beautiful, it's also powerful. It's the kind of love that becomes woven into their identity. So when you finally walk away, when that emotional safety is no longer there, they feel the loss not just of you, but of how they felt when you were in their life. But here's the key truthing: missing how you made someone feel is not the same as valuing who you are. There's a difference between regretting what they lost and actually having grown enough to deserve a second chance. Some people don't miss you because they recognize your soul, your mind, your heart. They miss the version of themselves that existed when you were there to constantly pour into them. And that kind of regret isn't rooted in love. It's rooted in comfort. It's rooted in ego. This is why you have to be careful when someone comes back saying they can't stop thinking about you. Ask yourself, do they really see you this time? Or do they just feel the absence of what you used to give? Are they mourning your heart? Or are they mourning the convenience of having someone who always cared, no matter how little they gave in return? Sometimes people come back not because they've changed, but because they've lost access to the emotional benefits you brought to their life. Real love isn't just about what you can give someone. It's about what they're willing to give you in return. It's about mutual recognition, mutual effort, and mutual growth. If someone couldn't appreciate you while they had you, chances are they still haven't developed the awareness to truly value you now. Because when love is real, it's recognized in the moment, not only in hindsight. It's important to remember that your love is powerful. You made someone feel seen when they didn't even know they needed to be. You gave them space to be themselves. You stood by them when they were unsure, when they were distant, when they weren't showing up the way you needed. And if they couldn't appreciate that while it was happening, then their realization after the fact says more about their loss than your worth. Missing someone is easy. It doesn't require change. It doesn't require accountability. It's just a feeling. But loving someone and keeping them requires action. It requires consistency, effort, and growth. So when someone tells you they can't forget you, don't let that be enough. Ask what they've done to grow. Ask what's different now. Because unless their regret comes with change, what they miss isn't you. It's the version of life they had when you were doing all the work. There's something incredibly powerful about a woman who walks away without a dramatic exit, without yelling, pleading, or trying to be heard one last time. When someone quietly leaves a relationship after being taken for granted, it often leaves a deeper impact than any confrontation ever could. Her absence becomes a mirror, forcing him to see the void she once filled, not just in his life, but in his emotional world. That silence becomes the loudest lesson he never saw coming. While she was there, she made things easier, emotionally, mentally, sometimes even physically. She reminded him of his potential, stood by him through his inconsistency, forgave what others wouldn't, and gave parts of herself that she rarely gave anyone else. But as time passed, he got used to it. He didn't notice the way she made him feel safe. He didn't acknowledge the quiet sacrifices she made to keep the relationship steady. And because she was so consistent, so present, so giving, he assumed she'd always be there. That assumption is what caused the downfall. He thought love meant being accepted unconditionally, even when he stopped trying. But love has limits, and when someone repeatedly shows up for a person who doesn't meet them with the same energy, there comes a day when their soul gets tired, not angry, not bitter, just exhausted. And that's the moment she begins to emotionally detach, slowly, quietly, and completely. When she finally walks away, it's to make a point. It's not for attention. It's because she's reached a place where she knows no amount of giving will ever change how little he sees her. That moment of silence, is that emotional cutoff, is what starts to unravel everything for him. Because for the first time, her energy is gone. The validation he was used to receiving without asking is gone. The comfort of her presence, her text, her softness, all gone. And what's left in its place is an emotional silence that screams. He starts replaying moments he didn't pay attention to before. He begins to remember her laugh, her voice, the way she supported him during his worst days, the way she looked at him when she still believed he was capable of more. But by then, it's no longer something he can return to. Because when she finally detaches, she doesn't fake it. She doesn't do half love. She gave it everything until it was no longer sustainable, and now her quiet exit speaks louder than any conversation ever could. He may reach out, he may say he misses her, He may start to realize all the things she did. But the lesson isn't in his realization. The lesson is in her ability to walk away with her dignity intact. She didn't stay to prove her worth. She didn't beg to be understood. She gave him the chance to step up, and he didn't. So she left, and now that silence echoes. That's what makes it so powerful. She didn't need to yell to make him hear her. Her absence did that. She didn't have to prove how much she cared. Her consistent love already did that. And she didn't need to punish him for not appreciating her. Her life is doing that for her now, through the quiet, lingering awareness that she's no longer there. Her silence became the wake-up call he never saw coming, and for the first time, he realizes what he had, when it's far too late to get it back. There comes a point when someone realizes that staining, explaining, and trying to make another person see their worth is no longer an act of love. It's an act of self-abandonment. You reach a place where you understand that you don't need to be a reminder in someone's life. You need to be the lesson. The difference is profound. A reminder is someone who lingers in the background, occasionally resurfacing in memories, texts, or thoughts, a soft echo of what once was. A lesson, on the other hand, is unforgettable. It's the shift that forces growth. It's the moment that makes them stop, reflect, and hopefully never make the same mistake again. When you've given everything to someone who took your love for granted, your presence becomes so consistent that they stop seeing it as a gift. They see it as a given. They begin to believe you'll always be there, no matter how little effort they put in, because that's what your pattern taught them. But one day, you break that pattern. Not out of bitterness, not to punish them, but because you finally choose yourself. You no longer want to be the one waiting for change that never comes. You don't want to be a gentle reminder of who you were and what you gave. You want to be the moment they never forget because it taught them something real. Being the lesson means walking away with grace, without fanfare. It means leaving behind the need to explain yourself one last time. It means trusting that your absence will speak more clearly than your words ever could. And more importantly, it means refusing to return to a space where your love was taken lightly. You no longer need to convince them of your value. If they couldn't see it while they had access to you, they are no longer meant to have access to you at all. This doesn't come from a place of ego. It comes from self-respect. When someone treats your heart casually, when they make a habit of inconsistency, or expect forgiveness without growth, your decision to leave teaches them far more than staying ever could. You become the moment in their life that challenges them to grow up. You become the person they look back on and realize, that's where I messed up. That's where I should have changed. You stop being a comfort zone and start being the reason they don't make the same mistake with the next person. But here's the important part. Being the lesson isn't about hoping they suffer or wish you back. It's about you rising above the need for validation. It's about you understanding that your worth isn't tied to someone else finally getting it. You walk away because you know your love deserves to be received, not just remembered. And if they remember you, it won't be because you begged to be seen. It will be because your absence left an imprint their life can't erase. Let them grow through losing you. Let your silence challenge their ego. Let the gap you leave behind force them to face the truth they avoided when they had you. That's the power of being the lesson. You don't circle back to remind them of your value. You live your life in a way that makes them feel the loss of what they never truly appreciated. And that's how you win. Not through revenge or regret, but through healing, evolving, and becoming someone who will never again settle for being just a reminder. Healing after being taken for granted means coming to a deep understanding. Missing you doesn't automatically mean deserving you back. It's a crucial distinction that many overlook because emotions often feel so overwhelming and confusing. When someone says they can't forget you, it's tempting to assume that they've changed, that their feelings are sincere, and that maybe, just maybe, there's a chance to rebuild. But the reality is that missing someone is one thing. Actually growing into a person who deserves to be with you is something entirely different. Missing you is an emotional response. It's about longing, nostalgia, and the comfort of familiarity. It's easy to miss what was good, what made life easier, what made them feel loved without conditions. But missing you doesn't guarantee transformation. It doesn't mean they've reflected deeply on their actions or taken responsibility for the ways they hurt you. It doesn't mean they've learned how better or how to prioritize your feelings and needs. In fact, missing someone can often be a selfish feeling, focused more on what the person loses than on what they failed to give. True healing involves recognizing this truth and refusing to settle for less than you deserve. It means realizing that just because someone can't forget you doesn't mean they're ready or willing to treat you right. It means valuing yourself enough to demand more than regret and empty promises. Healing is about rebuilding your sense of worth independent of anyone else's validation or mistakes. When someone who took you for granted says they miss you, it's natural to feel a tug at your heartstrings. But it's vital to pause and ask yourself, have they changed, or are they just feeling lonely? Are they missing the version of themselves when they had your love as a safety net? Have they taken concrete steps to grow, to apologize sincerely, to show through actions that they deserve another chance? If the answer is no, then their missing you is not a call to return. It's a call to protect your own peace. Healing also means learning to differentiate between love and attachment. Sometimes what feels like love is really attachment to a habit, a memory, or a comfort zone. The person who took you for granted may be attached to the idea of you, to what you represented in their life, rather than truly loving and valuing who you are now, with your boundaries, your growth, and your self-respect. This understanding empowers you to set clear boundaries. It allows you to say no to second chances that come without proof of change. It lets you walk away from the temptation of rekindling something that was one-sided or unhealthy. Healing teaches you that your future happiness depends on being with someone who chooses you fully, not someone who only remembers you when it's convenient or painful to forget. Ultimately, healing means reclaiming your power. It means choosing yourself over someone else's regrets. It means being confident that the right person will never take you for granted in the first place. And if someone misses you but doesn't deserve you, healing gives you the strength to say goodbye without looking back. This kind of growth is not always easy. It requires patience, self-compassion, and sometimes a lot of quiet reflection. But it's essential if you want to break the cycle of being undervalued. Missing someone is a fleeting feeling. Deserving someone is a lifelong commitment to mutual respect and love. When you heal enough to hold this truth, you free yourself from the pain of unreciprocated longing and open the door to a love that truly honors you. At the end of the day, being taken for granted is never a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of someone else's inability to see it. The real power lies in how you respond, not by begging to be noticed, but by choosing yourself, setting your boundaries, and stepping away with grace. When you stop settling for less and start demanding the respect and love you deserve, you transform from a forgotten reminder into an unforgettable lesson. And in that transformation, you reclaim your peace, your dignity, and open the door to a future where you are cherished, not just missed. Remember, the right person won't just miss you, they'll never take you for granted in the first place.